Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Wolfpacker Show. I'm Matt Carter. I'll be joined by Ethan McDowell, and we're going to be talking NC State football, an actual game. Let's get to it. We're going to be previewing Thursday game against UConn on the road. Kickoff will be 7:30 p.m. on the CBS Sports Network. Before we do that, let's get some housekeeping items out of the way. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, wherever you may download your podcast, wherever is your go-to for podcasts, just give us a rating, preferably a good one if you like us. Following us on YouTube, check us out at the Wolfpacker. Like us, follow us, whatever it is you're supposed to do on YouTube. We're over 2,000, so we're very grateful for that. You can get us on all your social media networks pretty much at The Wolfpacker. That's Twitter, that's Facebook, that's Instagram, that's YouTube. All of them will be The Wolfpacker is the handle. And a reminder, this is a great time to be subscribing to The Wolfpacker. There's still a little bit of time, I believe, left on the kickoff special, which is basically 50% off, if I'm right, Ethan, right? 50% off for a year. So think about that. A year. For half price, you get this football season. You get football recruiting sign-in day. You get basketball season. You get basketball silly season with the transfer portal. You get spring football, and you get the craziness that has become summer football recruiting, where June and July is just completely nuts on football recruiting. All of that for half price. So you'd be nuts not to take advantage of this deal if you're not a subscriber already. You get a lot of the inside information, and starting with the coverage of the game Thursday. Ethan will be braving the elements, hopefully beating the hurricane and getting up to the glorious, look like 70-degree weather in New England. I guess this is the time of the year to be in New England, right, Ethan? Pretty much.
Yep.
And then last, but certainly not least, let's give a shout out to our sponsor, RogueShop.com. That's ROG as in girl, UESHOP as in Paul.com. Have all your natural cannabis needs, whether you may be suffering from anxiety or sleep deprivation or some chronic pain issues or stress is just getting to you, whatever it may be. They got legal, safe to use, natural products that might be a difference maker for you. And if you think you're interested, they have actual live human beings on a chat feature on their website. They also are on our message board if you have any questions. Small companies, a husband and wife outfit. Husband's a disabled veteran, uses these products for some of the issues he's had to deal with. He's a strong believer in them, and it's just a good opportunity if you're suffering from some of those ailments to give it a try. So give them a check at RogueShop.com. All right, Ethan, Thursday, you'll be there in person. I'll be watching and hopefully getting a new TV this week to watch it on, upgrading my viewing experience. But overall thought, I mean, we're going to get into the game, the nitty gritty and all of that, but maybe we'll start here, kind of a big picture. How much did the experience last year in Greenville, North Carolina, in the big picture, make you nervous about this Thursday? And do you feel like some of that recency bias of that experience is coming into play when people are thinking about the game and maybe what the outcome might be?
I think recency bias is a good way to put it. But also, I think it's kind of warranted. I mean, you kind of look at the two situations, right? There was a lot of, obviously, confidence around last year's team. And then you go in and you go to an ECU team where that game never should have been that close. The players have said it. It's like everyone knows NC State should have won that game very comfortably. They didn't. It came down to ECU missing a last-second field goal. This whole offseason,
an extra point too.
Yes. So 2 crucial missed kicks. And so this whole offseason, I feel like I've been pretty optimistic. I think I've been kind of pumping in some sunshine into the overall outlook for NC State this year. Going into this week, I want to exercise a little bit of caution, just a little bit. I think this UConn team, I know NC State played them last year and beat them handily. For those NC State fans who saw that game and then didn't pay attention to UConn since, this is a very different team. New quarterback, much improved offense and defense in general. So it's going to be an interesting matchup going on the road on week one. Always lends itself to some weird stuff happening, and I still expect NC State to win, but little cautious overall, and that comes from a little bit of the humbling experience that was last year's season opener against East Carolina.
NC State last year was a 12.5-point favorite against East Carolina when they went on the road to Greenville. And last I checked, they were a 14.5-point favorite going on the road against Connecticut. I'm doing a real quick check, and that's still the case. It's still 14.5-point favorite. It's a very similar spread, maybe a slightly more favoritism going to UConn versus at East Carolina last year. And Ethan's right. If you did stop paying attention to UConn, which you're forgiven if you did, they were, I believe, 1-4 when they got done being smacked by NC State, which came after they got done being smacked on the road by Michigan, and that came after being smacked at home by Syracuse. And that all comes after a miserable 5-year stretch of football where, quite frankly, if you were to list worst football program in the football bowl subdivision, also known as FBS, UConn in the prior 5 years would be in the bottom 5, if we're being honest about it. A week after they lost to NC State, they beat Fresno State at home. That Fresno State team ended the year number 24 in the country. They won 10 games that season. They also then beat a ranked Liberty team. That Liberty team didn't end the season ranked. In fact, that UConn kind of started a bit of a spiral for Liberty to end the year. But at the time, Liberty was ranked. And they also beat a Boston College team at home. Now, Power 5, granted, BC was not a good Power 5 team, but we know what BC did to NC State just a couple weeks after losing at UConn. So that UConn team ended up going 6-6 in the regular season. They went to a bowl game. They lost to Marshall by a couple of touchdowns. Marshall, by the way, on the NC State schedule as well. This year, they played in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. And to head coach Jim Moore's credit, they didn't lose a whole lot. You would have thought that a 6-6 bowl-bound mid-major team would be vulnerable to the transfer portal. They held on to a lot of their teams. So what you saw was a team that started to come together and have stayed together since they played NC State. And Ethan mentioned they've added a new quarterback. What was your impression, Ethan, as we kind of dive into UConn of that turnaround last year? Do you think it was – I mean, we didn't probably not spending a whole lot of time watching UConn football, admittedly, but I kind of wrote about it. It's a mixed bag. You can't just say that it was all against an easy schedule, but there were also some elements they did beat some easier teams in that stretch, and they were very much far better at home than they were on the road as well.
Yeah, I think a big part of that is just kind of getting back into your home stadium, familiar territory, and then just getting hot at the right time. I mean, I think Jim Moore is a good coach. He used to coach at UCLA, obviously.
For the NFL with the Falcons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's coached a lot of successful programs, had some success, and this is about as big of a rebuilding job as you can get at UConn, like you said. And but Dave Doran said it during the press conference today. It seemed like as that season went on, the players started to really pick up on the culture that Moore wanted there. A physical, hard-nosed, running football team. And once they established that identity, the wins started to come. And yeah, sure, it's against an easier part of the schedule, but shoot, I don't think UConn teams of past years would have beaten Liberty or Boston College. So it's one of the most significant single-season improvements I can really remember a team compared to when you go off of their 4 games in perception to the end of season perception. It's pretty significant.
That you're right about UConn not winning those games in years past. I think they only had about three or two, not just a handful. One, you can count on one hand how many FBS wins they had in the prior 5 seasons before Jim Moore got there. And important to note too that was Jim Moore overhauled that roster going into last season. I mean, they put in a ton of newcomers going into last season, so maybe there was a little bit of a stretch of getting to know each other, getting to know the coaches, and it started to come together for UConn. Let's talk about the pieces of this UConn team. Where NC State should be concerned. We'll start at the quarterback position. Last year, NC State saw Zion Turner, who comes from a pretty elite program down in the state of Florida, but was also a true freshman, more of a dual threat versus a passer option. And I think really for UConn, this is going to be the big question of their season is can they get a passing game going this year? Because last year they could not throw the football. Ethan, what are your initial thoughts on the quarterback situation?
I mean, it was a 3-person quarterback battle, and Fagnano ended up winning the job. And he brings some interesting elements as a passer. His numbers at the FCS level, I'll be honest, didn't, blow me away. I think the biggest advantage he has going for him is the existing relationship with UConn's offensive coordinator, who used to also work at Maine. So they have that established chemistry, established history together, similar to what Brennan Armstrong and Robert and I now have at NC State. So they're familiar with each other. He's going to be able to pick up that system really quickly. And I mean, it's a low bar to clear their passing offense from last year. There were, I believe, was it New Mexico was the only non-service academy team that threw for less yards per game. It was just pretty much a non-existent passing offense at UConn. So hey, they have 2 good backs. You have a quarterback who can still move. He had like 200 plus rushing yards and a few touchdowns last year at the FCS level. So he can move around, but the biggest question mark and what kind of decides their ceiling is going to be that passing attack.
You do have some good running back, but I think the strength of this offense, if we kind of wrap up the offense, is their offensive line, and they have a legitimate ACC caliber pieces on that offensive line, which is they were a good running team last year. Now they committed to the run. They ran the ball about it. Obviously, that's what they had to do. But I believe they were maybe 22nd in the country or tied for 30. They were top 35 in rushing yards per game. I looked it up real quick to make sure I got that right last year. They have their 2 top running backs back. They have an All-American right guard in Christian Haynes. The left tackle and left guard both did very well against NC State last year. They both graded out well. They're both on NFL radars. And UConn tied for 28th with the most rushing attempts last year. So you know that they're going to commit to running the football. We don't suspect that'll change, even with the new quarterback. So this may be a bit of a strength against strength type matchup, Ethan. Mm-hmm. Their offense front versus the defensive front. What did Tony Gibson just say last week about the NC State defensive front, Ethan?
He said it was the best defensive line that he's coached. And, that's high praise. And it creates a very, very interesting battle because you have the position group that probably got the most hype during fall camp going against a really experienced offensive line. And, as an offensive lineman, it's tough to play against NC State's front 7 because front 6 because they blitz in such interesting ways where the defensive linemen are responsible kind of opening up gaps for the linebackers to come. So as a lineman, you have to communicate well and be able to, shift protection and all of that, which is a lot easier to do, I'm sure, when you have experienced guys back there, especially talented, experienced guys like UConn has. So, it'll be cool to see what that that guard going up against Savion Jackson and stuff like that. That's going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking up the number. UConn last year did run for 121 yards net against NC State and 3.8 yards per rush. It's actually not that bad for a team performance. They only lost 24 yards on the ground in terms of negative plays. UConn just could not throw the ball downfield against NC State last year. They were 10 of 15 passing, but for 39 yards. So an average of 3.9 yards per completion, that is very bad. I mean, that's almost as much as you were getting out of every rushing attempt last year. So NC State won that game, by the way, 41-10. For those who forgot, it was 31-3 at halftime and sort of cruised in, shortened the game up in the second half type of situation. Before we kind of look at the other side of the matchup, I do want to get into another one of our sponsors. This is Gametime. So Gametime, for those who may not know, I would encourage you to go to your app store on your phone and take a look at it. I have downloaded it myself, and I'm very excited about it. I think it's an awesome app, and what it does is it gets you the opportunity to find your best tickets or your cheapest tickets right up to game time, and it kind of alleviate the stress of finding tickets for a game you want to go to. So what I'm going to do, if you're watching on YouTube, as I get my phone set up, I'm going to pull up the Gametime app, and I'm going to show it to you on YouTube as it's coming up. Let's see how quick that is. You can see those are all the NC State football home games where you can get your latest tickets from. This is the Notre Dame game. You can see Notre Dame's a hot ticket right now. So if you're looking to go to Notre Dame right now, the best you're going to do, according to Gametime, is $126, and they will guarantee the cheapest deal, or you get the money back. So that is not only you get the money back, you're refunded 110% of the refund. So let's say you want to go to the UConn football game. You want to join and meet the one and only Ethan McDowell up in East Hartford, Connecticut. And you're going to go up at the last minute. Well, listen, there's some pretty good deals according to Gametime. You can get a ticket for $9 at the stadium, which holds about 27,000. So I can't imagine there's a bad seat in the stadium. So great opportunity. So what you need to do is you can snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code Wolfpack, all capital letters, Wolfpack, for $20 off your first purchase. So if you wanted 2 tickets to the Connecticut game, you could give them pretty much for free. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code Wolfpack, all capital letters, for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest priced, guaranteed. All right, Ethan, let's take a look at the other side of the ball. This is where I think there's a lot more uncertainty. We kind of know what to think about what's going to happen when UConn has the football against NC State defense. It's going to be who can be more physical, who can win the line of scrimmage. Can NC State stay disciplined against probably some play action shots that UConn might try?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to expect when NC State has the football and how that's going to play out with UConn defense. UConn has a tremendous amount of production back. They got an NFL prospect at defensive end named Eric Watts from the state of South Carolina, 6'5", 277, had 7 sacks last year. They got one of the most prolific tackling machines in the country in Jackson Mitchell at middle linebacker, but they also have question marks at the other 2 linebacker positions. I'm not sure they know what to expect from NC State either. So I wrote in my scouting UConn, agree or disagree with me, Ethan, that NC State needs to use the element of surprise to a big advantage here and really just kind of I would be showing off my creativity early. I don't believe in trying to play it bland or vanilla and just trying to beat them with personnel and save it for Notre Dame. I don't believe any of that. I would show off some of my creativity early and try to get a nice early lead on UConn so that adjustments may not matter that much because you've already done the damage. What do you agree with or disagree with me, Ethan?
No, I'm definitely with you there. I don't think this is a team you want to play of just a vanilla version of Robert and I's offense, especially next week going into the Notre Dame game. I think it's much better to establish some type of rhythm and see what this offense can do at full strength with the playbook open. I mean, shoot, I mean, maybe if VMI was the season opener and not UConn, then maybe it's a little bit different. But I think UConn isn't going to roll over. They're not going to just hand NC State the win. And I think the offense isn't going to be just outright talented enough to hang 40 points on UConn without trying. I think we're going to need to see what Robert and I's system can do. I mean, shoot, if you look what Syracuse did against them last year when Robert and I was there, they had a lot of success. So if they can do a similar thing and, like you said, build an early lead, that would be great. You look at last year, NC State's receivers weren't exactly open all of the time against other opponents. They did a great job getting open against UConn. Shoot, on the first play, it was a 75-yard touchdown pass on the first play from scrimmage to Thayer Thomas. So, this team's supposed to be faster. Maybe the receivers are a little better. We'll have to see maybe if that just, unlocks the offense a little bit more. And, I'm like you said, we don't know what to expect out of Robert and I's offense, but I'm expecting a few more explosive plays and a little more excitement on that side of the ball. And I bet NC State's not going to hold back in that respect.
What do you think of your NC State? I mean, if you're looking at the Connecticut defense, how would you think you would just kind of air it out early? And like you mentioned, that was a game where the wide receiver did have a little bit of success a year ago. Thayer Thomas, 5 catches, 115 yards, and a touchdown, including a 75-yarder. That was maybe one of the very first plays of the game.
The first.
Yeah. Devin Carter, 5 catches, 63 yards, a touchdown. Porter Rooks, 5 catches, 45 yards, a touchdown. Keon LeChain, 5 catches, a touchdown. Del Jones, 5 catches. That's a lot. They were spreading the ball, and they also ran for 169 yards and 5.1 yards per carry. So, that was one of the rare games where NC State last year was able to throw or run it, do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
How would you think you would approach going at it this game?
From talking to the players, it sounds like the UConn defensive line is viewed as the strength of that defense. For that reason, I think we could see something that Robert and I definitely did at UVA, which is use the short passing game as kind of like almost a substitute for the run. If they're not getting as much of a push on the interior to create holes for the running backs, which is definitely possible with the injuries that they have up front right now with Dawson Jaramillo out for the season and Lyndon Cooper expected to not play against UConn. You're going to have 2 backup interior linemen in there right now. Or I guess 1 backup because Dawson was projected to be in the 2 deep, but not start. Anyways, 2 rotation linemen. And because of that, maybe you see a lot of screen passes to someone like Terrell Timmons, like we saw in the spring game, or Keon Lassane or Casey Concepcion. Just those guys getting them involved in quick passes, pick up like 5 or 6 yards on first down and keeps the ball moving, even if you can't establish a rushing attack. But, I think the potential for big plays is there. I know explosive plays are a focus of this year's offense. They want to create more explosive plays than last year. And especially when you have the mystery of, hey, what is the system going to look like? UConn doesn't have concrete film on these guys in NC State's offense. So it'll be exciting to see maybe NC State can take advantage of a few busted coverages and get some big chunk plays. But I am expecting sort of a pass-heavy offense.
To your point, you mentioned the defensive line, projected starting defensive line for UConn across the front, 272, 293, either 296 or 303, and then 277. For a mid-major program, that is a very thick, sizable defensive line. And they're all 6'3" or taller. They have 2 6'5" or taller. as well. So that's a pretty good size defensive line that NC State, Ethan mentioned, a little bit short-handed on the offensive line, is having to go up against for UConn. So I kind of agree with him. It would not surprise me if you see a little bit of an air it out, maybe use the perimeter short passing game as an extension of the running game as well. And you got to remember, what would be curious for me is how much does Brennan Armstrong run in this game as well, and how much they're going to try to turn him loose in this game. We'll do a little bit of a couple of predictions here. The actual game predictions will be on the website here pretty soon. But spoiler alert, both Ethan and myself are picking NC State to win this game. So, but I think we have a little bit different ideas of how this game may unfold. So Ethan has no idea what I'm about to ask, so he's going completely blind with these subjects. Ethan, one bold prediction about this game.
One bold prediction. I'll go with Savion Jackson has 2 sacks.
Wow, that's a nice bold prediction. I'm going to go, even though I just talked about how much they're going to air it out. Michael Allen will go over 100 yards rushing. I think he'll rip off a big one. At the defense, I think the Connecticut defense will soften up a little bit after they get hit with some body blows in the passing game, and you'll see Michael Allen rip off a big one. First ever Robert and I play call will be what?
I'm gonna go with a screen pass to Kevin Concepcion. I think maybe if they make a concerted effort to get the nerves out for the young players early, and screen pass just seems like a good way to do that. Get the ball in the true freshman's hands and let them cook.
I'm gonna go with a quick out pass to Keon Lissa. I'm to see what kind of coverage they think UConn's going to do. And maybe just a quick throw. And I suspect UConn will be playing a little bit off early in the game in particular, trying not to let anything over their head. So that is my bold prediction. Who will lead NC State in catches in this game?
I'll go with Keon Lissane. I think, like we said in the preview podcast, which that was over an hour of, I thought, really good analysis for this upcoming season. Go listen to that if you haven't already. But like I said there, I think Keon's going to be like the third down guy, just a reliable receiver. And I think especially before this offense really gets into a rhythm as the season goes on, I think Lissane is just going to be a reliable target that could see a lot of volume early in the year.
I think that was my pick as well. So I don't need to. I just think he's the reliable option that they seem to like right now. All right. This fill in the blank. NC State could be in trouble if blank.
I would say the first thing is just if the offensive line looks overwhelmed because you have the injuries on the interior right now, and UConn has a solid defensive front. If Armstrong's getting hurt early and often, and we can't really see what NC State's trying to do on offense, they're just not getting any progress. And defensively, I think this quarterback would have to surprise me. I think that their passing game would have to be a lot better than I expect it to be. I think they will be able to pick up some yards and establish some rhythm on the ground potentially. But going into this game, I expect NC State with the defensive backs and the pass rush they have to completely shut down UConn's passing attack. If that doesn't happen, then maybe we have a close game on our hands.
I'm good with turnovers. I think turnovers is and that includes 4th and 1, which we saw last year against East Carolina. You have to remember that game got perilously close against ECU because what happened on 4th and goal, they got stuffed for a big loss. And then there was another goal line situation where I believe it was Jordan Houston fumbled right at the goal line last year. And then you had the costly Devin Leary interception. Didn't he have an interception late in that game to kind of set up the last possession for Connecticut? So you had all of that kind of come, that just really gave ECU life, particularly those two goal line situations. If they had punched either one of those goal line situations in, that game may never have been that interesting late. They were up 21-7 at halftime. And if they just punch one of those in, we're probably, talking about this game even a little bit differently instead of worrying about it because of what happened at ECU. It's an interesting stat. When UConn won last year in 6 games, the average turnover margin per game was plus 1.5. And they had an average of 2.5 turnovers gained per game. Then the 7 losses, turnover margin per game was negative 1.14, and they had just 6 turnovers gained in those 7 losses. So clearly, Connecticut needs to be opportunistic. Last year, at least, they needed to be opportunistic on defense to have a chance to win the game. That played a big role in their success and their wins. They're playing in their stadium. Take care of the football. Don't give them anything. And that might help you out. So, lastly, fill in the blank. NC State fans can feel pretty good early if blank.
I'd say you hold UConn to 2 scores or fewer. I think then you're talking about, all right, this defense is legit. People have been saying that it's going to be on par, if not better than last year's unit. For that to be the case, you think you have to hold them to, 14 or less points. And then offensively, I think you feel good just if you see any sort of rhythm. It doesn't have to be perfect. We don't expect it to be perfect with an entirely new system. But I think you want to see more of a rhythm and then a few explosive plays. Just whether that's getting Jordan Houston open on a screen play for 40 yards, or it's a deep pass down the field to Julian Gray. Just something that shows like, okay, this offense has a higher ceiling than last year's unit did.
I'm going to say specifically for this game, you should feel good early if you get an early lead. I think that goes without saying. So this may not be like ECU, for instance. I think if you see NC State had the potential this year to maybe jump teams early with a quick tempo offense and a defense capable of getting you off the field quickly and get some good early leads, I think that could be a formula to watch for NC State this year. That's what could make you feel good. I think there's the potential of creative upper tempo offense combined with the defense that is certainly above average, potentially top 25, 20 nationally. That's a good formula to get out to some early leads in football games this year. And I think that's going to be an important formula for NC State this year. So if you see that against Connecticut, you know that thinking might hold up. So let's see if they're at first quarter, they're up 14-0 real quick on UConn. Who's a team, by the way, not on paper at least, doesn't seem built to be coming from behind if NC State can get out to a good quick lead. So that'll do it. Ethan will be, as I mentioned, he's making the trek. He's going to East Hartford, nowhere close to UConn's campus, but they do have a football stadium within the vicinity, apparently, of a half-hour drive of stores. He will be there with all the on-site coverage and all the reactions after the game. And I will be helping him out from my safety of my couch back home. But we'll have a lot of in-depth coverage, including a post-game reflection podcast as well, to kind of wrap up the game. And then hopefully, for NC State perspective, we're talking about an easy win and a huge home opener against Notre Dame that we got. So, reminder, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, everywhere at The Wolfpacker. Follow Ethan on Twitter at Ethan M. McDowell. You can please give us a review, rate us wherever you listen to or download your podcast. Also, follow us on YouTube if you're watching this, please. That helps us out. All of this helps us out. Be sure to take advantage of that new premium deal special being offered by On3, half off for a year. I already went in details about why you should do that. You'd be nuts not to take advantage of that offer. sign up now. Last but not least, please check out our sponsor, rogueshop.com, as well as Gametime. So, for Ethan, I'm Matt, and this has been the Wolfpacker Show.